Hello and welcome to The Buck Stops Here. I'm Ankita Mukherjee. From Udta Punjab to Lipstick Under My Burkha to now Raveena Tandon's comeback film Maatr, which deals with the issue of rape, the Central Board of Film Certification has been cracking down on an increasing number of films for their content, their language, effectively for anything that the board in its wisdom deems offensive or inappropriate. Now, for the first time in 47 years, India's censorship laws are being challenged in a petition in the Supreme Court. Could this be the first step towards a complete overhaul of the censor board and the way in which film censorship works in India? For the first time in 47 years, India's censorship laws in their entirety are being challenged. The man behind it, veteran actor and filmmaker Amol Palekar, and his wife, a creative person and lawyer herself, Sandhya Gokhale, there are newsmakers on The Buck Stops Here. Amol Palekar, you have petitioned the Supreme Court saying that in a world of social media and the internet, the way that the Information and Broadcasting Ministry, or for that matter, the Central Board of Film Certification deals with pre-censorship of films now needs a complete revamp. Is that right?
Yes. I have been fighting this issue on censorship since 1972-73. And over the years, through all the fights, not only mine, but all the fights which keep on going, I have realized that it always boils down only to one filmmaker and his own work of art. And then it gets boiled down to that, a limited scope. We approach the courts, court gives a decision. Most of the times it's in the filmmaker's favor, and the matter gets solved, so to say. Unfortunately, we don't go beyond that immediate issue, and we are not able to reach the core, reach the fundamental. So what we have done now is to have a relook at this constitutional issue of Cinematography Act as well as the whole existence of CBFC.
Right. Now, Sandhya, this court today has actually asked the Centre, that is the Information and Broadcasting Ministry, as well as the CBFC to respond. Now, do you see this as an encouraging step, and what happens next?
Certainly, it is certainly an encouraging step. And we are not only just optimistic, but we have tremendous faith with the judiciary. So this is what was expected. Well, it's a small step, or it's a small achievement right now, yes, but certainly it is an achievement. Because what we are looking for is not to, we're not seeking quashing of this particular act, but certain provisions which are, which really amount to censorship, yes, and which leads to arbitrariness and randomness in decision making. That is the core of our challenge, and that we need to revamp that. That is the...
Right. I think it's important that you bring up those two words, you know, what is arbitrary, how are guidelines decided. Sometimes when you hear the CBFC give its reasons for rejecting a certificate to a particular film, it all seems so very vague, abstract, even imprecise. For instance, most recently for Lipstick Under My Collar, we were told it was a lady-oriented film.
Yes, yes,
and I think we're still at pains to figure out what exactly that means.
And not to forget, when Man Ki Baat is mentioned, those dialogues are asked to be deleted. I mean, I see just no reason, no logic, nothing.
Now, the Centre, it seems, also now wants the INB Ministry to respond as to why the Sham-Benegal panel's recommendations have not been implemented so far.
Yes, it has been almost a year now, and it is... If you have a look at the recommendations given by Sham-Benegal committee, they are very, very well put up, very extremely, after having good discussion, right, good look at that. And if these things, that's what we are asking for.
So essentially what they boil down to for our viewers is more categories of classification. So for instance, a new adult with caution category, as well as the two classifications under the universal under adult supervision, or UA, sure, category, as well as sure, the 12 plus and 15 plus age groups. Essentially what this would allow is for audiences to make a more informed choice about exactly what films, yes, that they would want to watch, rather than let the censor board board have to make those cuts.
Yes.
So presumably that lets the artist have his artistic freedom of expression and gives the audience the right to choose.
Yes, yes.
That is the whole crux, that the power given to the CBFC to deduct or demand the cuts and alterations in a work of art is something seriously objectionable, because that is the crux of censorship. Like, for instance, if I shoot something and upload it on the YouTube, there is no requirement of censorship.
Right.
Whereas if I want to exhibit it in the cinema hall, then you require certification. So there is this dissimilar treatment given to the similar content, and that is violative of Article 14, that is the equality clause of our Indian Constitution.
It is also, if I may add, something which has happened, some event which has taken place.
Right.
That is seen on all channels everywhere. But if I shoot that same piece, same speech,
yes,
and if I put it in my film, I will be asked to delete it.
Right.
So, I mean, it makes
So you're
no sense.
essentially saying that in an age of instant information and the online media, there is actually no room for pre-censorship cuts at all.
Yes.
And why have them only for film when everything out there that is online is entirely unrestricted?
That is one aspect of it.
Okay.
But there are a couple of other lacuna in the Censorship Act, namely the judges, the qualifications and the eligibility of the judges, or the board members, or the review committee and the revising committee, even the appellate tribunal. There is no eligibility criteria that is laid down in the Act.
So anyone can become a censor board member.
Exactly. So there is no background check or anything of the members. So that is something seriously objectionable that we have taken up.
Right. So your writ petition actually mentions this, that the CBFC currently does not have a member with a judicial background.
Also.
And you're saying that that results in a persistent neglect of the fundamental right to speech and expression.
So for instance, if for instance you make a film and as a member of the jury or the member without any legal background say that this may amount to contempt of court, on what basis he or she is saying it? Because there is no, I mean, he or she does not have any qualifications to say that.
Right. But the petition actually wants the court to declare the current CBFC in effect incompetent to carry on functioning?
Certainly. As it stands today under the structure of this Act.
Right.
It certainly needs to be revamped, re-looked at, and let something...
For instance, the issue of documentaries that even Cham-Benegal committee has not addressed to, and we have taken up that issue also.
But the Information and Broadcasting Ministry is believed to be already working on a legislation that will look at the functioning of the CBFC as well as the entire film certification process. Did you feel that, you know, this couldn't be just left up to the centre to decide?
We have waited for almost a year, and if they feel that this is, yes, welcome and it needs to be done, we also will be happy.
And there is no guarantee that the centre will accept each and every Cham-Benegal report recommendation.
All right. Joining us on this discussion now to take this further is writer and filmmaker Apurva Israni. We're also being joined by Pankaj Sharma, formerly of the CBFC. So Apurva Israni, the word homosexuality was beeped out of Aligarh before its film broadcast. You said even before the film was actually screened, it was sanitized. It was, you said, as though the gay community didn't even exist for the censor board. In effect, do we now need an entire revamp on how censorship works in this country, which is what perhaps this petition that has now been accepted by the Supreme Court tries to do?
Firstly, I just want to clarify something. What I had written about the censor board and vis-a-vis Aligarh and what had happened with Aligarh was on the film's promo broadcast. They had really clamped down on the promos of the film, and they hadn't let the promos play on primetime television. And the reason that they gave us was that the film, homosexuality is a concept that is not fit for children to watch or for children to talk about. About what the censor board did with the actual film itself, I was actually pleasantly surprised, and credit where it's due. the homosexual kiss between the two leading men was not cut down.
Right,
It was
right.
actually retained in the film, which was my biggest fear.
Yes.
There were other cuts,
Right.
but the film did release without an audience. But on television, when the film went out for television, the joke was that there was absolutely no reference to homosexuals
Right.
or the word gay. It wasn't there, so you could probably not tell what the film was about. So yes, I mean there is this kind of censorship, and what really worries me is it's down to a bunch of people and their sensibilities and their idea of morality.
Right.
And a diverse country like India, where we have so many different ideas of morality, how do you slap one idea of morality to the that's why we have the constitution.
Yes.
Right?
Fair enough. I want to take that across to Vani Tripathi Tikko of the Censor Board, joining us, of the Central Board of Film Certification, I should say, joining us on the phone line at this point. My question to you at this point is, one thing that was raised in court today is why the Shambhanigal panel's recommendations haven't been accepted yet. And these were submitted in June 2016. At the time, the CBFC said it was broadly in agreement with all the recommendations. Why are we not seeing them in effect?
Well, Ankita, anybody's guess is what I would say. But first, I have to congratulate you. There are very few anchors who actually correct themselves by calling us what we are, Central Board of Film Certification.
Vani, that
and
might
not the
well be
Censor
because
Board,
everyone views you
know,
as a censor board rather than a board of certification. So sadly,
yes, I
sadly
know,
that
but
is the perception.
It's a valid question, and I must say that we had a board meeting a couple of weeks ago, couple of months ago, where we were officially asked about what we felt about the recommendations of the Shambhanigal committee. Now, of course, that exercise was done internally by the board, and the report had been sent to the ministry. But we must also look at, I do understand that there have been so many questions about certification for the past couple of years. And since I am from the fraternity, I'm also an actor and a producer, I do understand, why these kind of questions become important to, be asked. But if you are bound by a redundant act of the 1952 called the Cinematograph Act, and if you have to act according to guidelines which are guided by the Act itself, which was so long ago, then obviously there is going to be a lot of things which are going to be amiss between the cup and the lip.
But
So,
Vani, if I may...
Of course, the Shambhanigal committee report is very important, it's very pertinent. And the fact that the ministry had put the committee in place, but you must understand, Ankita, and through you, I want to tell everybody that there are a couple of recommendations in the report, and it's in public domain. Anybody can go on the website and look at what the recommendations are. They do require an act of parliament, which means it absolutely requires, couple of the provisions of the committee require an amendment, which is an act of parliament, and that has been conveyed to the ministry. Now, of course, CBFC itself is crying for reform. We all know that. But till the act is not amended, and the sense of morality, I do not know because I'm on a phone line, who was speaking before me, it is an issue of human interface. You will have your own set of standards.
That was
and
Apurva
values
Asrani, the
as
writer
much
and
as
filmmaker.
Cinema which is received by people, in the country.
All right.
And we cannot take that away. We cannot take that away from the board or the panel members who watch the film. But the fact that it's become online, which is a big policy breakthrough, we've just had the online certification starting a week ago. That itself is the first weaning out of the human interface, which were the agents which used to take films, for certification.
Well, it's interesting today, Vani, that the Supreme Court has actually said in its observations during hearing this petition that perhaps that whole Cinematography Act now needs to be relooked at. The K. Abbas case needs a fresh, needs to be revisited. So, if this is in fact the case, then would you say that we're now looking at a broader ambit whereby we're no longer talking about individual cases anymore, but looking at how censorship laws are going to be reviewed in this entire in the country?
Ankita, I've always maintained, I was on your channel the day the Udta Punjab controversy broke out, and I've very candidly spoken about it, written about it, and I'm probably one of the only board members who's always said we have no business to censor anybody's creative work. We are a certification body. We should be certifying. So certifying of cinema, and pardon me, censorship is a wrong word. It's a very old 1932 term which was coined by the British, because then they had to censor information from going out to the citizens of the country because we were a British colony. So certification of cinema is a sociological subject. You have to look at it that way.
But Vani, would you not say that whether it's denying a certificate to Lipstick Under My Burkha, or to ask for cuts in other films, or for that matter what is happening to Raveena Tandon's comeback vehicle right now, Maatr, we don't know whether that's going to get a certificate or not. Does this not amount to censorship? We can quibble about the semantics as much as we want, but at the end of the day you will find that there are directors and filmmakers in this country who are saying that their rights of freedom of expression are being trampled upon.
Ankita, what did I start by saying? I said that the Cinematograph Act has to be amended, which was your last question. The ambit has to be absolutely widened, and that is why the Sham-Benegal Committee report was put in place. But the fact is that till the amendment doesn't happen, you have to wait at least for the amendment to happen. And of course, deletion, addition, don't put this, don't put that. We have no business to do that. We are a certification body.
Right.
We should be certifying what is correct for what age group.
We absolutely take your point.
Content is consumed only as far as the age group is concerned. I've always said this. I have certified films. I am absolutely not for deleting anything. We have no business to even touch somebody's creative work, because people don't realize how much of hard work goes into every film and how many years of making it could be behind them.
Sandhya Gokhale, who along with Amol Palekar was part of that petition that was filed in the court today, wants to make a point. Sandhya, go ahead.
I think I wish, Vani, I wouldn't, really, I wish you were the majority voice in the board. But that is not the fact. Factually, it's completely something that is different that is happening. Last week, there was a film that the board asked to cut and deduct "Man Ki Baat," the phrase in the dialogue, "Man Ki Baat," that was asked to be deducted. That filmmaker had to go to the appeal. Secondly, there was a film called Modi Ka Gaon. In fact, it is a pro-Modi film, I was told, person who has seen it. But the censor board said, I mean, again, I'm saying censor board because they are censoring. The film certification, basically, they said that you get it vetted from the PMO. Now, which guideline, which present guideline, tell me please, speaks about that? What kind of arbitrary decision that you're trying to make?
Before I take that back to Vani Tripathi, I also want to bring in Pankaj Sharma, someone who actually resigned from the CBFC some time ago. Reflect on this as well, Pankaj. Man Ki Baat, Modi Ka Gaon, these are phrases that also need now permission to be put into films. Are we seeing the CBFC step into new ground, and perhaps is it more important than ever before to have a relook at exactly what the ambit of the CBFC now is, because it's clearly gone well beyond just certifying films, and to go back to the Benegal panel's recommendations, if there were various categories under which films could be certified, then there would be no need for censorship at all.
See, let me take you a little back than Sham-Benegal Committee. CBFC has been crying for last 5-6 years for the revamp, for all sorts of changes in CBFC setup, in rules, regulations, everything. We had done a very extensive exercise in 2011 and 2012, and actually a draft bill is lying with the Ministry of Information and Broadcasting since 2012. On that draft bill, this government is also sitting for last 3 years. In between, before the Sham-Benegal Committee, one Justice Mukul Mudgal Committee was set up. That also did a very extensive exercise.
Okay, so
CBFC
essentially, Mr. Sharma, are you saying that, while we're hearing all the right things being said, effectively nothing has changed?
Yes, nothing has changed.
Yes.
Nothing has changed. We did such an extensive exercise on each and every point of this 60 years, more than 60 years old act.
Right.
That how it should be amended, how the members of the board should be appointed, what should be the mechanism to appoint the regional panel members, what should be their qualification, how the film should be evaluated, how should they be judged. The whole system is so hodgepodge that there is practically no system. So
Right, there is no
anybody
system
who
virtually.
comes there,
Okay.
the chairperson or the members of the board, they decide as per their own whims.
All right. So it really literally boils down to the particular whims or the specific morality of the present members of the board at any given time. Apurva Israni, you have a point to make. Go ahead.
Yeah, I mean, you know, when you know, politicians and people in power want to amend laws, they do it very quickly. They get consent and it gets, you know, laws change. But, you know, when there are laws that are not in their interests to amend, like, for example, 377, which we keep arguing about, which keeps getting presented into Parliament, or even this Cinematograph Act that we are talking about since 2012 and 2013.
Yes.
The thing is that, does it serve the purpose of the powers that be, you know, to stop us from dissenting? So that is something that I want to talk about right now, because the word dissent has become a bad word, has become an evil word, almost
Yes.
a word of rebellion. You know, when dissent is actually a word that is, which is a very progressive word, which is a word of evolution. So when films have a point of view that doesn't agree with the majoritarian view, it means that it is up for discussion. It must be discussed and debated. You know, don't suppress the entire act of debate and discussion. That's what's happening right now, which is a very uncomfortable,
All right.
stifling
I want
atmosphere.
Vani Tripathi to respond
so we need
to that.
allow that. Now, whether it is the act being amended or whether it is the powers that be the people in the censor board.
All right. All right. Vani, effectively what Apurva Asrani is saying is...
I want to respond to what Sandhya ji said, because
Yes.
it's important what she said.
Yes.
So one is, Ankita, that I have never received any diktat from the PMO or a ministry or something to do X or to do Y and so on. So I mean, those things are not just gossip, they're complete hearsay for me, because I sit on the board, though I can only do the revising committee.
Now,
I cannot
Vani,
do the
I
examining
think you may
committee,
have
which is
you
the
may have
first level of
misunderstood
certification.
what Sandhya Gokhale was talking about was two particular phrases. Man Ki Baat, which of course is what the Prime Minister's radio broadcast to the country is called. It was that phrase and a film entitled Modi Ka Gaon, and it seems the CBFC actually asked the makers of the film, that's the point that she's making, to get clearance from the Prime Minister's office. Now, are you saying that that is incorrect as well?
Well, as far as I'm concerned, it's completely incorrect. As far as I know, I've
Thank
never
you.
gotten any diktat from either the PMO or the ministry. I wasn't there in the certifying of this particular film which is in question. But you must understand that this is not an undemocratic process. When you don't agree with a certain thing that the CBFC has given you, you go to another level. And why are we not talking about FCAT, which is the Film Appellate Tribunal, which in the past so many months has actually done the extraordinary by actually putting films or certifying films or releasing films or making them come out, you know. When
But that's a painstaking process, ma'am. That is...
And I said as the malaise lies with the whole fact that it's a redundant act. And the last person who was speaking, Mr. Sharma, if the problem has been there for the past 5-6 years, it can't be put on the ambit of only one government or one ministry.
True.
We have to
We agree.
understand that
Absolutely.
this malaise, and obviously certifying
Right.
of cinema has been controversial for very many
Yes.
decades now. But
In
as far
fact-
as Leela Sampson's tenure is concerned, we
Yes.
even saw that she did not even call a board meeting for a whole
Our
year.
fight is not against any
Finally, they all
particular
resigned and so on. And I remember
I
even
think
that day, you know, I was not even in CBFC. I spoke about it.
Right.
That why is it a chairperson would be so lackadaisical and not called a board meeting for a whole year?
Yes.
where every
Okay,
year,
fair
3 months
enough.
they're supposed to meet.
Vani, fair
So
enough.
All I'm trying to say is, yes, the Sham Benegal Committee recommendations.
We are thankful to Leela Sampson. To someone like Leela Sampson, first of all, has been someone for filmmakers, has been a boon. That's something we have to really understand.
For that to go through.
Our fight is against censorship.
Okay, yes. Sandhya, you were saying that your fight really is not against a particular
Not
board
against
or a
any
particular government for that
not
matter.
Absolutely
against any
not.
particular setup at all.
Yes.
This is against the act.
Yes.
Because as she rightly pointed out, the act itself lays down certain provisions which give way to the arbitrariness of the decisions. And that is what we are challenging. In fact, we are not challenging anything to do with a particular board.
Right.
Neither
the-
any particular government. It is the fundamental of Cinematography Act and the structure of CBFC. We need to have a relook at that.
And you're saying that this is not about 2 years or 5 years or the immediate past.
Not
This
at
is
all.
something that hasn't happened for 47 years.
Yes.
We ourselves fought, censorship maybe 10 years ago. We made a film called Quest. In fact, NDTV has been the producer of that.
Right.
It was on homosexuality, and we faced. The Marathi version was almost banned, and we had to fight.
Right. Last words to you, Amol Palekar. It was your petition in the Supreme Court that has brought about what the court has said today and asked, of course, the INB Ministry and the CBFC for a response. What is your best case scenario going forward from here? What would you like to see?
Oh, I am very happy to begin with. It has not only reiterated my faith in the judiciary, and as we look at it, this is a tiny little step, but nonetheless a very important step. And from here onwards, let's look forward to something which is far more conducive to the creative spaces and freedom of expression.
All right. Thank you very much for joining us on this discussion tonight. You're with Buck Stops Here. There's much more coming up.